After a couple of contentious and complicated cases, we're back in Cockwomble territory for this particular episode. Even before the events that we will look at in this specific series of murders, this specimen had a history of cockwombleness that went back before the events of 2016 that we will be looking at. Idiocy, complacency, and paranoia all play their part in the case of a man who fancied himself as not just a gangster rapper, but a gangster full stop. So we're going back to 2016 to look at the pointless murders of 3 people, 2 of whom were half-brothers who were 16 and 14 years old respectively. And these boys were apparently friends of the Cockwomble. And we're also looking at another murder linked to that particular friendship group. As if all of this wasn't bad enough, you'll also hear about his behaviour in jail while awaiting trial. I know that I'm meant to stay relatively impartial, but this is the story of the very slappable Brice Rhodes. This is Murder of Crows. We're heading to the largest city in Kentucky for this tragic tale. Louisville is the home of the Kentucky Derby, or Derby as they call it, held at Churchill Downs, and it's one of the most famous horse races in the world. Louisville is also home to the noted college American football team, the Cardinals. And also within the world of sport, it was the home city of Cassius Clay, later better known perhaps as Muhammad Ali. And the influential and very popular baseball bats, Louisville Sluggers, are made there. The city was named after King Louis XVI of France, and Louisville was founded in 1778 by George Rogers Clark, making it one of the oldest cities in America. And it goes back almost as long as apparently American history does. They don't know old-fashioned in America, you see. It was the founding city of the Louisville and Nashville Railroad, which ended up growing into a 6,000 mile or 9,700 kilometer system across 13 states. The Louisville International Airport, unsurprisingly called the Muhammad Ali Airport, which is the city's main commercial airport, also hosts UPS's worldwide hub. But perhaps most importantly, certainly for fat bastards like me, the city is also the home of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Thank you, Colonel. It has a population of just a smidge under 635,000 people. And it seems that an awful lot of time is spent arguing about how the city's name is pronounced. There are three main contenders for this particular crown, but there seems to be no definitive correct answer.
The Derby City, the Possibility City, the River City. The place we know as home is called many things, but there's only one name.
Louisville? Louisville. Louisville.
The only problem is there's at least 5 different ways to say it.
How do you say the name of the city that you're walking in right now?
Louisville.
Louisville. Louisville.
Are you for real?
Politicians say it one way.
Louisville.
In Louisville.
Carrie Underwood and the Get Down clique say it the other. Ella Fitzgerald has her take.
Take me back to Louisville.
And t-shirts and signs make it seem like it's all right.
So obviously people are conflicted, even if they've lived here for a long time. But I'm here to get you answers, people. And you may not need to look any farther for the correct one than this King Louis statue at the corner of 6th and Jefferson.
It would be Louisville because we named ourselves after King Louis XVI. He helped us during the American Revolutionary War, and that's why you see all the fleur-de-lis and everything around too.
If you don't buy that answer from the Louisville Tourist Center, then we went to a person who's an expert in how people say things, U of L Assistant Professor of Linguistics, Elizabeth Patton.
So probably one of the most important questions you've ever been asked in your career. How do you say the name of the city that we're sitting in right now?
It's a good question. Do you want to sound like an insider or do you want to sound like an outsider?
How about Louisville?
No.
Louisville?
Oh, definitely wrong.
Louisville?
Yes.
Louisville.
Yes.
All right, so there you go. Louisville or Louisville are the answers. But why do people say it differently? Well, it all has to do with who they are.
It's got to be based on what they're seeing in the word.
And often where they're from.
I'm from Eastern Kentucky. I pronounce it with my accent.
So the next time the Louisville debate comes up, you can tell whoever the way the name of this city is properly pronounced.
In terms of crime, which, let's be honest, is why you're here, Louisville has a reputation as being pretty safe by the standards of large American cities. Louisville has long been a member of the top 10 safest large cities in America, while Kentucky as a state in itself, in which Louisville sits, has the 5th lowest crime rate across all 50 states. Now, there have been problems in recent years, and Louisville as a city has been one of the hardest hit by the opioid epidemic. In 2021, Louisville broke the record for overdoses in the city. Go Louisville. Heroin, fentanyl, and other opioids have also attributed to an overall increase in violent crime, property crime, and homelessness within the past decade. But as we have long known, every place has its seedy underbelly. But the main events of our story today will take us back to 2016. Though looking at the history of our main antagonist, we will go back even further. And then, thanks to delays in awaiting the legal fallout of the events, thanks in part to the corona bollocks. So the legal fallout of the events only culminated in late 2023. So with all of this explained, we need to look at the life of Brice Rhodes. Brice Rhodes was born in January of 1990, and his childhood was very much one of two very differing sides, with his mother Shauna subjecting him to various levels and types of abuse, while his father and stepmother tried their best to support the troubled kid and set the young man on the right path. His stepmother would later touch on the relationship she had with the troubled young man when she testified at his eventual trial.
He was task avoidant, and and chores weren't. And some, again, trying to determine what's age appropriate and not age appropriate. He tried to get out of chores a lot. It wasn't his favorite thing to do. What is going on? And he looked at me and he said, "Get out of my face." And it was just like a whole different, I'd never seen that in him. He sounded different, and it was, so it was, that was, I can still hear his voice in my head.
As he grew up, Rhodes was no stranger to the criminal justice system. He had convictions as a sex offender, for assault, 4 convictions for domestic violence, primarily against his own mother, and he was jailed twice for violating terms of his probation. Rhodes was on probation for domestic assault for 2 incidents that occurred in 2013 and 2014. Then later in 2014, he was again charged, this time by his mother Shauna, who alleged that he grabbed her by the neck and hit her in the temple. I think it means this part of your head, not that he hit her while they were in a worship place. Rhodes was clearly becoming someone who turned to violence to try to solve his problems. And his need for control would see him associate with younger people that he found it easier to influence. And this tendency would come back to bite him in 2016. Now, as someone who fancied himself as a bit of a player in the criminal scene, as well as being a wannabe rapper,
I'm jugging, trapping and I'm jugging, bitch, I'm trapping and I'm jugging, trapping and I'm jugging, bitch, I'm trapping and I'm jugging, trapping and I'm jugging, bitch, I'm trapping and I'm jugging, trap, bitch, I'm trapping and I'm jugging.
Yeah, I wasn't that impressed either. He went by the street stroke rap name of Rambo. And around this time he found out about a contract that had been put out on a Louisville bad guy. And because he wanted to make a name for himself by completing this contract, and as he had a tendency to do, he formed a team of teenagers that would be willing to do his bidding to help him achieve his goal. Antoine Carter, Corey Taylor, no, not that one, that would have been cool, but no, this one was Jacory Taylor, but known to friends as Corey, and half-brothers Rhys Gordon, who was 16, and Larry Ordway, who was 14. And together they formed this crack team that Rhodes put together, believing that they would pull this off. And with all of that done, they headed out to find their target. On May the 4th, 2016, as night was just starting to fall, Rhodes believed that he'd spotted the target. At this time, Rhodes was in the back seat of a vehicle behind Rhys Gordon, who was driving the car. At this time, Brice Rhodes shot Christopher Jones in a drive-by shooting on South 41st Street with a 9mm gun. But, perhaps unsurprisingly, they had killed the wrong man. And Jones was not the man that the local ne'er-do-wells wanted eliminated. It would later be stated by a forensic pathologist that Jones was hit by a bullet that had gone through his arm, entered his torso, and hit his liver. It was after this street crime that Rhodes began to be plagued with paranoia around the bungled contract killing. With the brothers being the youngest of the group, Rhodes felt that they were the most likely to speak to either their family or the authorities about what had happened. And therefore they, or rather what they knew, was a risk to him. It was later said that he wanted his associates to vote on whether the two brothers should live or die for spreading the word that Rhodes had killed a man. But in keeping with a man of huge ego and a man who wanted complete control, while Rhodes said he was putting the fates of the teens up for a vote, no vote was actually taken. Instead, Rhodes made the executive decision that the boys needed to be killed in order to silence them. Rhodes gathered his team, including the teenage brothers, at his home some 2.5 weeks after the murder of Christopher Jones, while Rhodes's mother and sister were out of town. Both boys were stabbed multiple times, and Larry Otway, the younger of the two, was forced to listen to his older brother being stabbed to death. Brice Rhodes made Taylor and Carter stab both boys so they would be implicated and involved to force them to stay silent, though it is thought that the boys were both already dead when Taylor and Carter stabbed them. A medical examiner later found that Rhys Gordon had been stabbed more than a dozen times, and Larry Otway more than 20 times. Rhodes then worked with the others to carry the boys' bodies out of his home in totes and loaded them into his vehicle before leaving the others to clean up the home. The bodies of the boys were later found in the Shawnee neighborhood inside an abandoned building where Rhodes had set them on fire. What a prick. Rhodes was immediately suspected of involvement, and while the investigation was progressing, his initial arrest on May the 24th, just 2 days after the bodies were found, was made on an outstanding warrant in a domestic abuse case, giving the police time to firm up their case against him for the murders. A day after Brice Rhodes' arrest, dozens of teens and adults alike gathered at Wyandotte Park to release blue, silver and crimson balloons to honor the slain brothers. Several officers were present and hovered on the periphery of the event to safeguard the participants, especially as they knew that 17-year-old Ja'Cory Taylor was still at large, but they kept this fact quiet from the public. It was while being held in jail that Rhodes continued to show his true colours. In August of 2016, Rhodes knocked an inmate to the floor and threatened to kill him like he did the others. And that's what it stated in the arrest warrant. The victim suffered a large lump to the back of his head, a laceration on his forehead, and a sore neck, bless his little heart. The incident was captured on video surveillance within the jail. In September of 2016, Rhodes spat on another inmate at Metro Corrections, with this spitting incident also being captured on the jail's video surveillance system. Later, in September of 2016, Rhodes was charged with threatening to kill a judge and her family. During a court appearance, due to Rhodes' erratic behaviour, deputies strapped him by his wrists and ankles in a restraint chair and covered his mouth with a spit mask before wheeling the chair into court, leaving him looking like something like Hannibal Lecter. During this hearing, despite all of these precautions, he still shouted at the judge, "What, you don't think that we can't find out where you live at?" What an absolute fucking charmer. Any takers for our distinguished bachelor?
Mr. Rhodes, you can just bring him up right here.
Why y'all have me come out like this for?
I think you know why.
What?
You know exactly why. Now, listen, stop talking. Have been.
God.
Are you done?
No, I ain't done.
You've been charged in the 4th degree. I'm going to keep talking because I don't want to have to see you back here for this.
What you think? Where you live at? What you think at? None of that. I ain't do.
So you're saying you're going to find out where I'm out?
None of that. You got something, I'll be out.
Okay.
Yeah,
You've been charged with assault in the 4th degree, minor injury, terroristic threatening in the 3rd degree, with physical contact. New charges. I'm entering a plea of not guilty on your behalf. Would you like me to read the arrest warrant to you?
No, I'm not guilty.
I am setting a bond of $15,000 full cash on that on those charges, and the other case, once this actually gets served on you, is going to be dismissed without prejudice as duplicate. Do you have any questions? Would you like appointment of a public defender?
Not guilty.
I just said that.
Not guilty.
I just said that.
I'll be out.
Okay, I just said that.
Right.
And would you like an attorney?
Take me back to my cell.
I'm not taking you anywhere. They can take you back, but would you like an attorney?
All right.
Okay. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office.
In October of 2016, Rhodes was accused of ripping an inmate observation document in the day room of Metro Corrections. And perhaps more alarmingly, he is said to have taken a broken broom handle and swung it at a glass window trying to break the glass towards an officer. He told this officer that he wanted her to come inside and that he was going to kill her. Can't think why she wouldn't have wanted to go inside. 5 days later, Rhodes was also accused of throwing urine through the crack of his cell door, striking a poor officer in his head, neck and ear. That really is taking the piss. In January of 2017, a Metro Corrections officer noticed a man-made hole underneath cinder blocks in Rhodes's cell. And officers say that as they tried to confiscate the metal object that had been used, Rhodes grabbed it and flushed it down the toilet. He was charged with first-degree criminal mischief, second-degree escape, and tampering with physical evidence, all of which were felonies. Well played, Mr. Rhodes, well played.
Right to speak what I need to speak on. I don't know if y'all got some type of sexual relationship going on or what y'all got going on, but I'm definitely gonna speak my mind.
Detective Detelli and I have no sexual relationship.
Now I'm talking about you and a prosecutor over there, sir.
Right.
You denied all my motions. Every motion I filed, you didn't deny it.
I'm pretty sure I've denied the vast
every motion I
pro
filed.
se motions that have ever
Are you some type of racist? Or y'all got some type of sexual relationship going on? Which one is it?
Or are you just wrong in everything that you've made a motion for?
Are you a secret Ku Klux Klan member?
No, sir, I'm
Is that
not.
what you really are?
No.
Okay.
I'm not.
But like I said, the higher courts, they'll deal with it when time comes necessary.
Also in 2017, according to court records, Rhodes was discovered to have sent jailhouse notes to Ja'Cory Taylor, threatening him to not testify against Rhodes. The phrase, "rats get exposed," was allegedly written across the top of a police statement transcript, as well as a handwritten letter sent to Taylor. The letter was slipped to Taylor sometime in 2017, while both men were being held at Metro Corrections. Rhodes told Taylor that he wanted him to recant his statement to police and not to take a plea deal. He provided Taylor with a letter to copy in his own handwriting, which listed numerous reasons that Taylor could use to recant the statement that he had made to the police. So as the investigation continued and Rhodes, being a cockwomble that he was in jail, he was giving them plenty of additional information as to his character and his nature, Taylor and Carter became increasingly important to the case.
Brice Rhodes denied any knowledge of what happened to 14-year-old Larry Ordway and 16-year-old Maurice Gordon when police interviewed him on May 24th.
Where they run away to? Like,
well, if we knew that, man, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I wish I could help know where they was. I don't.
Not long after, Rhodes stopped answering questions and asked for a lawyer. But 15-year-old Anwan Carter didn't stop talking. He said he and 18-year-old Ja'Cory Taylor were in Brice's apartment when the murders took place.
He made Maurice on his knees and begged for forgiveness. And like he put a toboggan over his head, and he put a rag in his mouth, and then he stabbed him.
Carter describes a similar scene for Maurice's brother.
We moved Maurice to the side, and we brought his brother, and we put the toboggan over his head. He put the toboggan over his head and put the sock in his mouth. And like, started stabbing him too.
Carter says he and Taylor were forced to be involved in the killing.
He made us stab him.
He made y'all stab him? So you and Corey stabbed him too? Alright, how many times do you think you stabbed him?
I stabbed him one time.
Carter pled guilty in late 2016 to facilitation to murder charges along with tampering with evidence. Carter was ordered to remain at a Kentucky Department of Juvenile Justice facility until he turned 18, at which time a judge could have ordered him to serve the remainder of a recommended 10-year sentence, or alternatively put him on probation for 5 years. In 2019, Carter was granted probation. But according to the information in his plea agreement, if Carter were to break the law while on this probation, he would face a recommended 20-year prison sentence. Taylor pleaded guilty in 2018 to 3 counts of facilitation to murder, amended from murder, and tampering with evidence, all Class D felonies, and he was similarly sentenced to 10 years in prison. And as part of both of their deals with prosecutors, Carter and Taylor agreed to testify against Rhodes. Many people protested against the sweet deals that they received, but police and prosecutors knew that Rhodes was the driving force behind the murders of the boys, as well as that of 40-year-old Christopher Jones. And the testimonies of Carter and Taylor would strengthen the state's case against Brice Rhodes. Now, due to delays, some of these through Brice Rhodes being a disruptive fuck trumpet and delaying things, but also due to the corona bollocks, the trial itself did not actually begin until 2023, some 7 years after the murders. But it would be during the trial that the events around the killings, at least according to Taylor and Carter, were made public.
Backseat of the vehicle?
Mm-hmm.
Whose car was it?
This is Brice.
What color was the car?
Blue Mazda.
Blue Mazda?
Mm-hmm.
Who was driving?
Rhys.
Who was next to Maurice in the front?
Larry.
Who was in the back?
Brice.
Were you behind Maurice or Larry?
I was behind Larry.
And the defendant was behind Maurice?
Mm-hmm.
So driver's side rear?
Yes, ma'am.
Why were you, was Anwar there?
Yes, ma'am.
Where was Anwar?
He was behind us in the truck.
What truck was he in?
He was in the truck he had that day. He was following us.
He followed you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how he got the truck? He just, was it a truck that he had long term?
Nah, just for short term that day. Just for that day.
He showed up in the truck that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Why did y'all go to 41st Street?
looking for somebody.
Who are you looking for?
I don't know.
Did you ever know specifically who you were looking for?
We never knew. We just went along with it.
Who knew? Who was the person who knew?
Brice.
Sorry.
Brice knew.
Did he tell you all who he was looking for?
No.
But did he tell you why he was looking for someone?
Something about a price on their head or something like that.
Somebody with a price on their head. What does that mean?
Somebody with a price on their head, like, looking for him.
Does that mean that somebody else is going to pay if this person gets killed?
It means the person who did it would get paid.
The person who did it gets paid? Okay. How did you all know that there was somebody with a price on his head?
He told us, Brice told us about it.
Did he tell you all about this before that night or that night?
It was at night.
Did you, okay, so you're all driving down 41st Street, you're in the back seat, Anwan following, what happens?
Rode around. Maurice rode around and stopped the car and he seen somebody in the middle of the street. And Brice told him to get out the street. Shot him.
Who shot him?
Brice.
Brice Rhodes shot him?
He put a sock in his mouth, tied his hands behind his back, and put a hat over his head.
And where did he do this?
In the living room.
And what happened after that?
He started hitting him in the chest at first.
With an item, with his fist? How was he hitting him?
We hit him in the chest with a fist first, hit him like 3-4 times. And then Tyron passed him the knife. Then he started stabbing him.
So Tyrion handed him the knife. Was he making a noise?
He couldn't. He had the sock in his mouth.
Was he trying to make noise?
Yeah.
How many times did Brice Rhodes stab him?
So, no.
Where did he stab him?
The torso, out up here.
Was he standing up or was he on his knees?
He was on his knees.
And he stabbed him in the chest?
Chest, stomach, in the general area.
In the what area?
In his chest, in his stomach.
Did he stab him other places?
No.
How long did this go on for?
Until he stopped breathing.
Do you have any idea the time?
Don't know.
Was there a lot of blood?
Yeah.
Where was the blood going?
In the carpet and sheets.
Were the sheets set out to catch the blood?
Yeah, sheets was really there to move him.
Who got the sheets?
Brice.
And where did he put them?
Like we had dragged Maurice by the door, and then bring Larry out.
Now these guys are your best friends, right? What's running through your mind? What's that?
I gotta make sure I get out. Try to save somebody else. Make sure I'm safe.
And what would have stopped you from getting out? What would have happened?
Probably been with him. Probably in the same situation, same fate.
All right. So they bring Larry out of the bathroom, does he have, when does he get the sock?
He already been like, he had the belt, he had a hat, he got the sock. He had the sock when he was doing, like, when it was his turn.
Okay, when you say he had the belt, what do you mean?
His hands was already tied behind his back. He had a hat over his eyes, so he couldn't see.
And he had a sock in his mouth?
He got the sock when it was his turn.
Was he making noises?
That's it. He started making noises when he started getting stabbed.
Was he on his knees?
Yeah.
Did he not happen?
No.
Was there blood in the spot that he was at?
Yeah.
Did he respond to that?
Yeah, he started like trying to kick everything off, get his hands untied, get his hands free and stuff.
Was his brother making any noise at that point?
My brother already did.
So how many times did he get stabbed?
I don't know. A lot.
Who was stabbing him?
He was dead.
Brice did?
Yeah. Then we passed the knife around.
Who did he pass the knife to?
He passed it to me.
Why'd he pass you the knife? They're both dead, right?
Yeah, they're both dead, but we all, he said, so we all gonna be in it. So it's on all of us now.
So you would participate?
Yeah.
So what did you have to do with the knife? How many times did you stab Larry?
Like 3.
Rhodes was duly found guilty.
The court will now read the verdict. Verdict Form 1A, murder as to Christopher Jones. We, the jury, found the defendant guilty of murder. Having found the defendant guilty of murder, we found that the murder was intentional. Verdict Form 2A, murder as to Maurice Gordon. We, the jury, found the defendant guilty of murder. Having found the defendant guilty of murder, we found that the murder was intentional. Verdict Form 3A, murder as to Larry Ordway. We, the jury, found the defendant guilty of murder. Having found the defendant guilty of murder, we found that the murder was intentional. Verdict Form 4, tampering with physical evidence. We, the jury, found the defendant guilty. Verdict Form 5, abuse of a corpse as to Maurice Gordon. We, the jury, found the defendant guilty. Verdict Form 6, abuse of a corpse as to Larry Ordway. We, the jury, found the defendant guilty.
It had previously been announced that Rhodes would not face the death penalty. But during the penalty phase, both sides made strong cases for severity and mitigation, respectively. The jury clearly sided with the prosecution, and this was shown by the fact that it took them less than an hour to return with the recommendation of 3 life sentences without parole for the 3 intentional murders of Larry Ordway, Maurice Gordon and Christopher Jones. And he was also sentenced to 5 years for tampering with physical evidence and 1 year each for the 2 counts of abuse of a corpse.
Rhodes will spend the rest of his life in prison without the possibility of parole. One of the most horrific murder cases in Louisville history came to a close today, 7 years after the lives of Christopher Jones, Maurice Gordon, and Larry Ordway were taken. Their families were in court today and shared how they felt about the sentencing. Wave News reporter Brandon Spencer was in court and joins us now live from the Judicial Center. So, Brandon, what do the victims' families say today about the sentence?
Well, John Myra, in cases like this, the result always seems to be bittersweet. The families got their justice today, but they say justice doesn't always mend a broken heart.
I knew it was going to come. I just didn't think it would take this long.
More than 7 years after the death of their loved ones, the families of Christopher Jones, Larry Ordway, and Maurice Gordon finally received closure Wednesday. For some, learning Brice Rhodes' fate was why they continued to show up.
Because I wanted to hear that life sentence with no parole ever, so that he can't hurt another child, anyone. He's evil and he needs to be in prison.
The delays in the trial partially came from all the disagreements, outbursts, and threats Rhodes has casted at attorneys and judges throughout the process. But Wednesday, he took a different approach, walking out without a word, something the families noticed.
You know, people has asked me about forgiveness with this whole situation, and I feel like me in the human flesh, I cannot give him enough forgiveness to justify what he did. You know, so he's going to wake up with that every day.
At the time of Rhodes' sentencing, Larry and Maurice would have been 21 and 23 years old, respectively, with Jones being 2 years shy of 50, a reality that this case is a constant reminder of.
How you just mutilated them like an animal, you know, and then throw White Castle boxes all around them, just like they were trash. They wasn't trash. They was human beings, and they loved life.
The hole in my heart is still not closed. You know, like I said, I mean, my mother's gone and my brother's gone, and this is all I got right here. You know, this is all I got.
All the victims' families say they could do now is to find solace in knowing their loved ones have received justice, a feat even the judge made sure to weigh in on.
Everything about this case is horrific. And when I came on the bench, it was very important to me to get this case tried, to get a resolution for everyone on both sides. It needed to be done. And I am satisfied that it is done and it is over and that justice has been served and that the jury was in the absolute best position to determine what the appropriate sentence should be.
Now, the defense did say that they are going to file an appeal in this case, but the families say that they hope that Rhodes lives a long life in prison. Reporting in Louisville, Brandon Spencer, Wave News.
And long may he rot. And that was the disturbing case of a man who murdered 2 kids that hero worshipped him because they in turn saw him kill the wrong person. What a plum. And then his paranoia just took over. He was and is a cockwomble, and I'm not going to spend any more time on him. As for the victims, I think the best way to hear about them is through the victim impact statements that were delivered in court.
Thank you. Good morning, madam. If you raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth and the whole truth? Thank you. You may have a seat.
Good morning, ma'am. Could you introduce yourself to the jury?
Deborah Wren.
How do you spell your last name?
W-R-E-N.
Ma'am, how are you connected to this case?
I'm their grandmother.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Do you recognize these photos?
That's Rhys and Larry.
And are these photos you all gave us of the boys?
Yeah.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth moves to introduce 69 and 70.
No objection.
Admitted.
Okay. Which one's Rhys?
That's Rhys.
Okay. And obviously that's Larry. And if you could, I know it's hard, can you tell the jury about Rhys and Larry?
Rhys and Larry were really good kids. They did good in school and they played sports, and They were really good-natured boys. They never been in trouble. They were very loving. They got along with everybody. They were well liked at school. Their teachers really thought a lot of them. They were involved in sports. They were just good boys.
7 years, family of the three victims have finally learned what justice will look like in the murders of their loved ones. Despite receiving the maximum sentence recommendation, some of them say it still isn't enough.
I'm so glad this is over. I'm glad it's over. It's just too much.
Emotions were high Tuesday evening outside the courtroom, where for the last 2 weeks, family of Christopher Jones, Maurice Gordon, and Larry Ordway had to listen to the grim details of their loved ones' murders.
We, the jury, do find beyond a reasonable doubt that an aggravating circumstance exists in this case and fix the defendant's punishment for the murder of Christopher Jones at life without the possibility of parole.
Brice Rhodes sat motionless as he learned he would likely spend the rest of his life behind bars. Afterwards, the prosecution thanked the jury for agreeing to the maximum sentence and criticized some of the defense's tactics.
I think the defense in their opening was divisive about our city and about the police department, and I was proud of every person that took the stand and proud of the effort that they all put forward.
While that strategy proved unsuccessful, Rhodes' attorneys say the fact that they spared his life was a win.
I understand the feelings of the victim's family. They're very real. They had genuine loss, but we achieved our goal in this case.
It's been 7 long years, and I've been waiting for this day that Maurice Gordon and Larry Ordway and Christopher Jones got justice today.
But for some, the sentence was simply not enough.
He killed Chris for no reason at all. And it's just not enough because I am by myself taking care of my son. By myself, he does not have no daddy. Due to this man in here taking his life away for no reason.
This video is, of course, dedicated to Christopher Jones, Maurice Rhys Gordon, and Larry Ordway, who were, in different ways, killed for no real reasons. I send love and condolences to their families and friends. Thank you for watching another episode of Murder of Crows. I'm Steve. Samson is around and about, but he's obviously had enough of me for one day, so he's doing something far more worthy with his time, it seems. But I'm Steve, and I'll see you when I see you.